In this video, we're going to talk about, is MS passive income legit? Honest analysis, proof, and red flags. Based on publicly available information and the platform's own operating model, MS passive income appears to be a legitimate, transparent, and education-first platform with a real founder, a real business presence, and a documented history of transactions. Whether it is the right fit for any individual investor is a separate question that depends on personal goals, risk tolerance, and financial circumstances. But in terms of operating honestly, avoiding misleading claims, and giving investors direct access to asset operators without acting as an unaccountable intermediary, the platform demonstrates meaningful markers of legitimacy that are worth examining closely. What legit means in investing. Before assessing any platform, it helps to define what legitimacy actually means in an investing context. There are three dimensions worth considering. Legal legitimacy refers to whether the platform operates within applicable laws and regulations, makes appropriate disclosures, and does not make unlawful promises, such as guaranteeing returns or acting as an unlicensed financial advisor. Operational transparency refers to whether the platform is honest about what it does, how it works, who is behind it, and what the realistic outcomes of participation might look like. This includes being upfront about risks, liquidity constraints, and the fact that past results do not predict future performance. Sustainability refers to whether the platform has a coherent, durable business model, not one built on short-term hype, affiliate incentives that misalign with user interests, or promises that cannot be kept over time. A platform can fail on any one of these dimensions while appearing credible on the others. The analysis below looks at MS passive income through all three lenses. Company background. MS Passive Income is a founder-led platform built specifically to educate investors about niche, alternative passive income asset classes categories such as litigation financing, movie bridge loan financing, bridge lending, and receivables-based funding that receive little mainstream coverage but represent real, structured financing strategies used by sophisticated investors globally. The platform was built by passive income investors, with the express purpose of making these asset classes accessible and understandable to a broader audience. Its core business model is straightforward: provide free education, publish real investment data, and connect interested investors directly with the asset operators behind each opportunity. The platform does not manage funds, does not act as a custodian of capital, and does not insert itself between the investor and the operator as a financial intermediary. The founder is publicly identified and personally active in the community. Crucially, she does not just write about these asset classes, she invests her own money into them, documents her experience, publishes her actual returns, and compares them against the figures that operators originally projected. This level of personal accountability is a notable feature of how the platform operates. Proof of legitimacy. Several concrete signals support the platform's legitimacy claim: founder transparency and skin in the game. The single strongest legitimacy signal is the founder's personal investment practice. She commits her own capital to the same asset classes she writes about, and she publishes both the operator's projected returns and her own actual outcomes, including any variance. This is a meaningful standard of accountability. A platform built on deception or exaggeration would have little incentive to publish honest comparisons between projected and real returns. No intermediary, no hidden layer. MS Passive Income does not handle investor capital. Investors who decide to pursue an opportunity connect directly with the asset operator, conduct their own due diligence, sign contracts directly, and wire funds directly. This model eliminates a significant category of risk associated with platforms that pool or hold investor funds in non-transparent ways. Active, verifiable community presence. The platform has an established online presence, an active investor community, and a track record of real-world transactions. This is verifiable in ways that newer or purely anonymous platforms are not. Balanced, risk-aware communication. Legitimate investment platforms acknowledge risk. MS Passive Income consistently emphasizes that its asset classes are not suitable for everyone, that liquidity is a genuine consideration, and that investors should conduct their own due diligence before committing capital. This kind of messaging is the opposite of the hype-driven, return-focused language that typically signals a problematic platform. Free access with no transaction obligation. The platform's educational content and newsletter are free. There is no pressure to invest, no locked content paywall designed to extract fees, and no aggressive conversion funnel. Investors can consume all available material without ever making a transaction. Red flags to watch. In the interest of honest analysis, here are the red flags that would apply to any platform in this space, and how Ms. Passive Income either avoids them or warrants attention. Guaranteed or exaggerated return claims. Platforms that promise specific returns, use language like risk-free, or present best-case outcomes as typical, are significant red flags in alternative investing. Ms. Passive Income explicitly avoids this by publishing real numbers alongside projected ones and encouraging investors to treat all figures as starting points for due diligence, not as promises. Lack of founder accountability. Anonymous or pseudonymous platforms with no identifiable leadership are a common warning sign. Ms. Passive Income has a public founder who is personally invested in the platform's credibility, both reputationally and financially. Opacity about how money moves. If a platform is vague about what happens to your capital after you invest, that warrants serious concern. Ms. Passive Income is explicit. Investors transact directly with operators, and the platform is not involved in the movement of funds. Pressure to act quickly or invest before understanding. High-pressure tactics are a red flag in any investment context. The platform's consistent messaging encourages investors to start with free education and only consider transactions once they are genuinely informed, the opposite of urgency-based sales tactics. One-sided, overly promotional content. A platform that only highlights upside without ever discussing risk, liquidity, or suitability is not operating in investors' best interests. Ms. Passive Income's own guidance explicitly states that its opportunities may not suit everyone, and that factors like liquidity needs and risk tolerance are essential considerations. No significant red flags consistent with fraudulent or deceptive practices have been identified in the platform's public-facing operations. Pros and cons. So when evaluating Ms. Passive Income, it's important to look at both the advantages and the potential drawbacks before making any investment decisions. Starting with the pros. One of the biggest strengths of the platform is that the founder is public, accountable, and has a personal investment history in the same opportunities being discussed. Another major positive is the transparency around performance. Real return data is published openly, including comparisons between projected returns and actual outcomes. The platform also removes intermediaries, meaning investors transact directly with operators rather than through multiple layers of middlemen. There's also a large amount of free educational content available with no transaction obligation, allowing people to learn before committing any capital. Another important advantage is the platform's transparency around risk, suitability, and liquidity constraints. The risks are discussed openly rather than hidden behind marketing language. The active, founder-led community and open discussions can also be valuable for investors who want exposure to real experiences and practical insights from others participating in these asset classes. And finally, the platform avoids hype-driven marketing and does not rely on guaranteed return language, which is relatively uncommon in the alternative investing space. Now let's look at the cons. These niche asset classes naturally require more research and education than mainstream investment options. The platform is also not suitable for investors who need fully liquid capital, since many opportunities involve short to medium-term capital commitments. Another important consideration is that this is a self-directed model. Investors are expected to take initiative, conduct due diligence, and evaluate opportunities independently. Compared to regulated fund platforms, Ms. Passive Income also has relatively limited mainstream visibility, which may make some investors more cautious initially. The educational side of these asset classes can also involve a learning curve, especially for complete beginners who are entirely new to alternative investing. And perhaps most importantly, outcomes depend heavily on the quality of individual operator due diligence. A poorly researched investment decision can lead to disappointing results or even capital loss. So overall, the platform offers transparency, education, and access to niche opportunities, but it also requires patience, personal responsibility, and a willingness to learn before investing seriously. Comparison with known investment models. Contextualizing Ms. passive income against more familiar investment models helps clarify what it is and what it is not. Compared to a traditional fund manager, a fund manager pools investor capital, makes investment decisions on behalf of investors, and charges management fees. Ms. passive income does none of this. It educates, introduces, and steps aside, leaving decision-making and capital control entirely with the investor. Compared to a robo-advisor or fintech investment app, robo-advisors automate portfolio construction, usually within mainstream asset classes. Ms. passive income is not automated and does not manage portfolios. It is an education and access platform for investors who want to understand and directly engage with niche financing opportunities. Compared to alternative investment marketplaces, platforms such as crowdfunding or peer-to-peer lending marketplaces aggregate opportunities and often facilitate transactions through their own infrastructure. Ms. passive income connects investors with operators but does not facilitate the transaction itself. Investors engage directly. This keeps the platform outside the transaction while maintaining educational and community value. Compared to investment newsletters or communities, this is perhaps the closest analogy for the educational layer of what Ms. passive income offers, except that most newsletters offer analysis without personal accountability. The founder's practice of investing her own money and publishing real outcomes elevates the platform above standard commentary into something closer to an independently documented investment journal with community access. Final verdict. Who should trust it? Ms. Passive Income is well-suited to self-directed investors who are genuinely curious about alternative income strategies, comfortable doing their own due diligence, and looking for transparent, founder-led education rather than a managed product. Investors who appreciate real data over marketing language and who understand that niche asset classes carry different, not necessarily greater risks than conventional investments, will find the platform's approach refreshing and substantive. Even investors who never intend to commit capital will benefit from the free content and community as a way to broaden their financial literacy. Who should approach with appropriate caution? Investors who need immediate liquidity, are uncomfortable with the idea of a structured, time-limited capital commitment, or prefer a fully regulated, managed investment product should carefully evaluate whether this platform's asset classes are appropriate for their situation before engaging beyond the educational content. This is not a reflection of the platform's legitimacy, it is a reflection of personal suitability, which the platform itself is transparent about. In summary, Ms. Passive Income demonstrates the core markers of a legitimate, honest, and education-driven platform operating in a genuinely underserved corner of the investing world. Its legitimacy rests not on credentials or regulatory labels alone, but on a founder willing to be publicly accountable, invest her own money, and publish the real results, which is, ultimately, a higher standard than many more familiar platforms meet.